It's later next week. We got a package from eBay. It is the new replacement starter for the Genie Boom Lift. Shiny and new. It's aftermarket. The OEM was like 850 bucks, and again aftermarket one for like $400 to $500. We went with the aftermarket one. Save a few $100. I always like to bench test components if possible, and this one's really easy to do. Jumper wires from a known good battery to this guy. So the connections are, the ground is on the case of the starter, and the positive is on the feed lug to the starter solenoid. This is the solenoid. In, out. See, the out goes right to our starter motor. And this here is the control wire for the starter solenoid. So when I have this jumper here from the positive and touch it to here, the starter should engage. And we want to make sure that the Bendix comes out and engages with the flywheel, like the old one is not doing. I have a Pico set up just because, why not? I want to monitor on, see on the blue channel we have an amp clamp. It is 1 volt, it is 100 amps. And the starter, it's not under load, so it won't draw that much current. But I'm interested to see if we can actually visualize the pull-in coil of that draws, how much current that draws, and then the hold-in, and then finally the motor spinning. I don't know if we'll be able to see that on our screen. And channel 2, the red trace is just battery voltage here to see how much the voltage drops as we're doing our measurement. So here goes nothing. Control wire to here. Look at the screen, or I guess look at the starter first. Make sure it works. Cool, right? Ooh. Let's try that again. Alright. Pause that. Let's review our footage. This is the fun part. Obviously the starter works and the customer will be happy. I want to see what's going on with our current. So our current is maxing out at, so what are the values there? About 150 amps, maybe 160. And as it spins up, we can actually see a little ripple. That's from the starter brushes making and breaking contact. I think that's pretty neat. As you can see, the inrush current is much higher than the steady state when it's running. Now again, no load, so we don't expect this to be very high. 160 amps to turn on, and once it spins up, we can actually see it drops down to about 70 amps. That's pretty reasonable. There's a spec sheet that came with the starter. 12 volts, 8 mega ohms? I don't know. Pull test voltage 8 volts, so it should work with 8 volts or higher. Rated power 1.4 kilowatts, so about 1.5 horsepower. Actually closer to 2 horsepower. And there's the RPM, maximum amps. Current at max power, so 400 amps. Free run results, that's pretty neat, so we can compare that. Our free run results were about 60 amps, and we have like 52 amps here at 3800 RPM. That's pretty neat. Pull current 42 amps, hold current 16 amps. Yeah, a lot of good stuff on here. I'm actually surprised they included a data sheet. But I want to see if right here we can actually see what is going on. So So a little blip, and then, okay, that's the actual current for the control side of the starter solenoid. I believe that's what it is. Very cool we can see that because we're measuring the current here. So when I attach the little jumper to the control side of the starter solenoid, obviously it does draw some current. And that is 250 millivolts, which would be 2.5 amps. That's reasonable. And once the starter solenoid actually engages, boom, I think that's when the pull-in coil activates. And then once the Bendix is out, then the hold-in coil activates, and that sends power to the brushes in the motor, and it starts spinning, because you don't want this thing to start spinning before it engages. It happens very quickly, but it's, you know, pull in and start spinning and hold at the same time, and then when you release the key, everything turns off and retracts. Curiously enough, on the XL7, it's been pretty cold, and sometimes I turn the key and the same exact thing happens as with the Genie. It goes like zzz, you know, the starter motor spins, but that pull-in coil does not want to engage the Bendix. So I turn the key off and try again. And so far it's, you know, it works the second or third time. However, the car is telling you, hey, replace the starter soon. Don't, you know, we don't want to leave you stranded here. It is a stick shift, so if I park it on top of a hill, I can still bump start it, but that's not, you know, recommended. So that's what the data looks like. I thought I would just be curious, but let's go to the Genie and install this thing and make sure it fires up. Well, here we are back out in the field installing a new starter on this Genie. Before I do that, I checked the coolant. I had to add a whole gallon. It looks like it might be leaking from somewhere around here. I see some previous repairs from the plastic housing, but it's full for now. You can see a drip right there, so wherever it's coming from, I guess we'll just leave it for now, but make sure it doesn't overheat. The oil is looking extremely black. You see that? At least it's there. So we'll let them know about that. But what we're here to do is replace this guy. So first things first, let's disconnect the negative battery terminal and go from there. There's the original starter, came right out, just 3 bolts. WPS Dynathrust. Does not look like a Ford number, so maybe it's been replaced before. And just make sure that the flywheel looks good, not, you know, teeth aren't like chewed off or anything. And let's pop a new one in. This is one of my favorite tools in the field, electric ratchet. You can just zip these bolts on super quick, no issues at all. It gets my socket back here. Okay, it's easier with 2 hands. And then we'll torque these guys down. Make a couple wiring connections. Be good to go. Alright, here she is. Brand spanking new. Let's fire it up and will it start? Place your bets now. It's been sitting here for almost a week. The battery shouldn't be fully discharged, but not fully charged either, so it's ready to go. Let's try it. Oh, baby! Woo! So we'll let it run, warm up, heat up, charge the battery some, make sure, see where the coolant's leaking, see how bad the leak is, and but that's it. Needed a starter. They drained it by spinning the starter motor because it wouldn't engage. Thanks a lot for watching. Get yourself a no-go for the cold months. Without it, I would have been kind of dead in the water on this one. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye-bye. Little bonus footage. Drip, drip, drip. Coming from right here to this hose clamp. Shut that guy off and fix this coolant leak. These Ford engines are pretty stout. They're there you go, drippy, drippy, drippy. That's a pretty fast leak coming right from this interface right here. So let's spray this with WD-40, loosen up this clamp, and try to retighten it and see if that helps. Man, it's even got leaks on the upper hose too. Drip. All these clamps are leaking. Tighten them all up, see how it goes. So I found 5 leaking hose clamps. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, wipe everything down. Everything looks good. There's still pressure in the system, so if it's not leaking now, it shouldn't leak when we run the engine. Theoretically, these hoses are like 20 years old, so it should last the guy another few years.